Okay, so we're working on our 2090 case today, and what it's doing is the power shift isn't working in second and third. So we ran a pressure test, and to do that you go in under here. Where's that light? And you take these little 5 plugs out here, and you hook up pressure gauges to those, and the pressure, and then in the manual, right here, so you hook up the 5 gauges to there, and you want to be able to see them all. And where is the test sheet here? Right here. So then you have this check sheet, and you go through all these tests through it, and then you end up with all your pressures, and then you go the check sheet analysis, and it gives you if it's doing one thing or another. And so ours isn't working in second or third, and we're losing clutch pressure on C3, and so low clutch pressure on C3, you got 3 options. O-rings on the C3 oil tubes have leakage, clutch piston seals have leakage, or back plate bolts have cracks. And so the easiest thing to check first is your O-rings on the C3 oil tubes, and that is right here. So you take, this is your power shift valve. Right up here is the power shift and your clutch. And so you unhook these lines here, and take this cover off. There's 3 gaskets, then there's 3 tubes in behind. 3 or is it 4? 3. 3 tubes behind here, and they go into your clutch packs, and there's little O-rings on those, and you have to they can blow, and you have to replace those.
Or the tube itself.
Or the tube itself can crack. Has happened before too. It's the easiest and simplest thing to check before tearing apart the whole transmission. So we got all the oil drained out. It's about almost 4 pails of oil. And then
you want to drain it through a screen, because that way you can see if there's any clutch pieces.
So we just
in the oil.
Took a French fry screen here, and then put a fine window screen over it. And
we don't have anything in the oil.
That just, if you got any pieces of clutch or anything in there, that'll let you know what's in there. Okay, so we'll just start taking this apart and be back. Okay, so we've unhooked the 4 lines here. This one, this big line here, and this one. This one you don't have to, that's just connection line between the valve bank. So just these 4 lines, and then unhooked the power shift and the clutch linkage, and now we'll take this bolt here and this bolt here out, and then you screw a stud in there, basically a headless bolt, just to hold everything in place while you take the rest of them out, and then you can slide everything off, and just makes it a little easier. Okay, so we'll loosen all these, get all that off, and then. Okay, so we've taken all the bolts out all the way around and got our 2 stud bolts. We just used some 3/8 ready rod, and there's also a plug right here in the middle. You take that out, and there's a spring, a spacer, and a ball in there, and you got to take all that out because that goes into the second piece of the shifting unit here. So now we'll just take the cover off.
Okay, just taking the cover off here. I want to keep all this stuff real good and clean. Have to clean up that gasket. And the next section comes out. That's where all the oil orifices are and the spools. And then there's a back plate on the tractor there. Right here. With a gasket on both sides.
Need a little bit of effort to get.
We'll have to pry that off and then we'll show you the oil tubes behind.
Okay, so we got all the covers and everything off of here, and we've cleaned the gasket off. And so what the issue is this: you got the 3 tubes here, and this one right here is right loose in there. You can just pull it out like that.
It was just sitting.
It was just sitting in there, just like that.
And it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be way inside there.
Can't really see.
Nice and tight. So what happened is the 2 O-rings here. There's one on each end here, and they're both flat and very hard. And so that there's nothing holding the tube in there, and so it just slowly vibrated out. So we'll just replace the O-rings on all 3 since we have it apart.
And we have the gasket set.
Then we got the new gaskets, and you put her all back together.
So we have our O-rings here. We're gonna put them on. They're 2 different sizes. So on this end, you can see it's got the longer indentation. That end is bigger, and it's bigger on the end, so that takes a little bit bigger of a O-ring, so you'll need 3 of those. And then on this end they're smaller, and so you'll need 3 of those O-rings. And first you want to put some petroleum jelly on the end of the tube just to lube it up some, and then once you slip the O-ring on, put some over top the O-ring as well, so that when you insert it into the tractor, everything fits good. So we'll show you next when we're putting it into the tractor. Okay, so we're ready here to put these tubes in. So what we've done is we've taken a 1/2 inch.
They're threaded on the inside.
Yeah, on the big end, they're threaded on the inside. So we've taken a 1/2 inch coarse thread bolt and threaded it in just a couple of threads. You don't want to go too far, because otherwise it can be hard to get it back out once you push it in. So then we're going to push these tubes into those holes there. So
you can hold that one.
Do that. So you push it in and it just kind of pops into place. And then thread the bolt back out. Do the next one. We've already done 1, or 2. So this is the last one. Now with these new O-rings on here, they actually kind of pop into place quite hard. You have to push hard. The one, like we showed before, it was backed off. It was so loose because the O-rings were dried out and shrunk. And the other 2, they were still in place, but when we screwed the bolt in to pull them out, you barely pulled on them with your fingers and they just slid right out, and that's not supposed to be like that. You're supposed to have to really yank on them to take them out, so they would have been bypassing some pressure. So now we're going to put those studs back in the bottom and then start putting it back together, and we'll show you that. Okay, so we got the stud bolts in, so now we can go ahead and put the first gasket on, and then next will be the back plate. Got to be careful with the gaskets so they don't break or crack or anything. So then we'll put the next gasket on. And I'll go get the cover. So now I'll slip the valve body on. And get the linkages in place at the top there so that it'll slide in. Okay, we're just putting the last gasket on. And then the outer plate. Then, then we can start threading the bolts in, and then we'll put that plug in the center again as well.
Okay, so you got a little spacer here that goes in, just goes in the hole there, and a little ball. And a spring and the plug.
It tells all the order of everything and the torque specs and everything in the manual. Can't remember what it exactly was, but we'll have
Well,
to
you better
look.
go look and see.
So, okay, so first you tighten that plug to a torque of 25 to 30 foot-pounds. Then you remove the two studs, and then you tighten the bolts to a torque of 30 to 35 pounds, and it gives the torque, the order of tightening here. Okay, so we're going to torque the plug to 30 foot-pounds. Okay, so now we can take out those two studs at the bottom and put the bolts in. And then we will torque the rest of them. Okay, we're going to torque the bolts now to 35 foot-pounds. So you start with the one right in the middle. So then we'll run through those all again just to check them. Want to be careful so that you don't over tighten them, just check them. And then we can go ahead and hook the pressure lines back up and then put the oil in, and it'll be ready to go. But before we put the oil in, the O-ring on the park,
We'll do that tomorrow.
the park shaft is gone, and so it seeps oil out of there. So tomorrow since we have the oil drained out, we're gonna do that. So we'll show how we're gonna do that. But we can, once we're done checking, we'll hook the lines back up, and then tomorrow we'll work on the park. So that's it for today.